Okay, so now we get to the nitty gritty of actually doing a graph. We're going to use one of those sign lines, or forgot the technical term for. But actually, because this is an x squared, okay, let's just go ahead. And if your goal is to graph this, okay, we can always remember you could just make a little table. Now, the key thing to making a table is you need to find where the vertex is, where the line of symmetry is, right? And the nifty formula you should know is negative b over 2a. It's the beginning of the quadratic formula. So in our case, notice a is 1, b is 1. So negative b over 2a, be careful with your negatives, is negative 1/2. Okay? Now that I know where the vertex is, okay, I'm just going to pick a number smaller, like negative 1, for instance, and a number bigger, like 0. And if I plug those three numbers in, I'm going to be able to get the graph. So I'm going to start with negative 1, plug it in here and here. Now, negative 1 squared is 1, plus the x is negative 1 minus 12. So notice you get 0 minus 12 or negative 12. Darn, that doesn't even fit on the grid here, but let's give it a try. Negative 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, now 0, if you plug in there, will also give you negative 12. All right, and what about negative 1/2? This one sucks just because of the large numbers, of course. But negative 1/2 squared is 1/4 plus negative 1/2 for the x minus 12. So if you do the math carefully now, you should be able to use a calculator, right? You could do 1/4 plus negative 1/2. You're going to get a decimal. What is that? That's negative 1/4, because that's negative 2/4, right? Minus 12. So you're going to have a vertex at negative 12 and 1/4. So negative 1/2 is negative 12 and 1/4, or negative 12.25, unless I made a mistake. But anyways, here's your graph going up like this. Now, another thing we could do, very important, stay focused now, is I want to know where it crosses the x-axis, because that's going to give me a better picture, right? Besides, they're asking for the x-intercepts anyways. Let's take this and factor it. So it's going to be x times x. Again, I'm going to do the x method with negative 12 and a 1. That's a 1 right there, right? And notice that means 3 times, actually negative 3 times 4, because 4 minus 3 is 1, and 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. So x plus 4, x minus 3, if that equals 0, remember, these are going to change signs. You're going to need negative 4 and 3. So now I know my x-intercepts are at negative 4, 0, and positive 3, 0. Now, there's something cool that's going to happen here. So 1, 2, 3, negative 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 0. Now, the cool thing I want to also remind you of is once you know the intercepts, the axis of symmetry's got to be right in the middle. So notice if I go 1, 2, 3.5 this way, 1, 2, 3.5 that way, I get my negative 1/2, and we already figured out here that negative 1/2 is the vertex, right? But anyways, I can now finish my graph really nicely, like so. Now notice the x-intercepts, we know you factor, you solve for 0. What about the y-intercept? The y-intercept is you just simply plug in 0 for x, and notice you get negative 12. We actually had it in the table here. So 0, negative 12 is my y-intercept. So that's another thing I want you to remember. when you want the x-intercept, y becomes 0. So if we look at the original function, y becomes 0. In other words, you're factoring and solving for 0, right? And when you want the y-intercept, you plug in 0 for x instead, and that's where I know 0, negative 12. Now, what's the end behavior? We know it's going up, left, and right. So the end behavior, teacher will just have you probably sketch it like this. But both the left and right are going up to positive infinity. Oh, the sign chart. Okay, let's do that real quick. So that's kind of cool to do. So here we go. The sign chart's going to be like this. We're going to draw our number line. We already solved and figured out that at 3, it's a 0. And at negative 4, 1, 2, 3, negative 4, it's a 0. So our sign chart is going to be, okay, we already know we plugged in 0. We got a negative value here, right? When we plug in negative 4, or actually we plug in a number left of negative 4. So let's do that real quick. What is our function here? X squared plus x minus 12. So x squared plus x minus 12. Let's plug in negative 5. Negative 5 squared, be careful with your negatives, is 25 plus the negative 5 minus 12. Notice that comes out to be a positive. And if I plug in a number like 4 squared plus 4 minus 12, 16 plus 4 minus 12 is a positive value as well. So here is our sign chart. We know left of our 0 is positive, right of our 3, 0 is positive, in between it's negative. And see, that's what matches the graph, right? Because we know here it's positive, here it's positive, meaning above the x-axis. In between, it's negative. Okay? So that is our sign chart. Our end behavior is that. Our x-intercept, of course, you solve for 0. Our y-intercept, you plug in 0. I recommend you remember the value of making a little table. If you're going to do that, remember negative b over 2a will help you find where the vertex or where the line of symmetry is.